Hey y'all, it's Jessica from Sloppy Swatches. Today I have a look at the Cool Beans collection that is available right now from LynB Designs. These were sent to me for review and I'll link her storefront and social media down below. This is a collection of 9 gorgeous shades. I honestly think this is one of the prettiest collections that she has put out, so I'll go ahead and get right into it. The first polish up today is Supreme Beans, and this is without a doubt my #1 top pick. This is described as a gorgeous pink crowley base with hollow flecks and shifting shimmer. So this has a crazy strong gold shimmer on that gorgeous soft pink base. I'll go ahead and show you a brush shot, and I'll show you how Supreme Beans swatched on my natural nail. So here's a look at that first coat. This one goes on nice and smooth, really easy. It does have a super strong shimmer, but really minimal brush strokes. This covered pretty well in one coat. I do still have some nail lines, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how it builds up with a second coat. So here's a look at that second coat. I am going to go in a little bit thicker with this one, but this builds up completely in 2 easy coats. I think that's very atypical of most of the LynB polishes that I have in my collection, in my opinion at least. So this makes for an exceptional formula. Again, those brush strokes are really minimal. I was able to cap the tip after the second coat. So here's a look at that completed mani at 2 coats before a glossy top coat underneath my artificial lighting. This one does dry down fairly smooth. Here's a view from another angle underneath my artificial lighting. I was not able to get these out in the sunlight, but I know they are going to be 10 times more gorgeous there. This is my swatch photo again under that artificial lighting and then once more at an angle. So next up is Human Beans, and this is a re-release from the original duo. This is described as a bright orange red base with gold shimmer and gold glass fleck. This reminds me so much of Fire Opal. It's very glowy on the nail and is super, super bright. It does lean more towards the orange side. I'll go ahead and show you a brush shot, and I'll show you how Human Beans swatched on my natural nail. So here's a look at that first coat. This one is in a bit of a jelly base, so it's a little bit sheer, but you do get a ton of that gold fleck that's really going to help the opacity. So one coat made for a nice base. I'll let that dry and then show you how it builds up with a second coat. So here's a look at that second coat. I am going to go in nice and thick here, and this one is right on the edge of being completely opaque into. I think it's going to be down to personal preference or application method if you prefer this polish at 2 or 3 coats, especially if you have shorter nails and you don't have quite as vivid a nail line as I do. I'm going to go ahead and show you how it builds up in a third coat. I definitely do prefer this polish in 3. It just makes for a very gorgeous, full of depth polish with a lot of shimmer and a very bright color. So here's a look at that completed mani at 3 coats before a glossy top coat underneath my artificial lighting. All that shimmer is going to be really awesome. Matte too, I know I say that all the time, but this one I think is especially pretty. Here's a view from another angle underneath my artificial lighting. This is my swatch photo, again under that same artificial lighting, and then once more at an angle. So next up is Living Beans, and this is described as a stunning nudie taupe base with a hollow shimmer and shifting shimmer. So this one is a gorgeous nude. It does have a really strong pink shimmer in my opinion. It does have some nice hollow in there. It's a little bit more subtle, but it may be more standoutish in natural lighting. Here's a look at that brush shot, and I'll show you how Living Beans swatched on my natural nail. So here's a look at that first coat. This one is quite sheer. I think it's going to make for a lovely base for a French tip though, maybe a little more on the adventurous side for a French mani. One coat made for a nice even coverage. Again, it is just a beautiful subtle blush. That shimmer is really strong even in just one coat. So I'll let that dry and then show you how it builds up with a second coat. I am working in a little bit of a thicker coat with this one because I know it is on the sheer side. 2 coats builds up that base, but it is still quite sheer on me. I do still have a good amount of visible nail line, so I'll go ahead and let that dry and then show you how it builds up with that third coat. So here's a look at that third and final coat. Again, I am working in a little bit of a thicker third coat here, but it does pull this one completely opaque. So here's a look at that completed mani at 3 coats before a glossy top coat underneath my artificial lighting. This one did seem to dry down a little bit dull, so I definitely do recommend a nice glossy top coat to help bring out all that shimmer. Here's a view from another angle underneath my artificial lighting. This is my swatch photo again under artificial lighting, and then once more really quickly at an angle. So next up is Extraterrestrial Beans, and this is described as a murky lime green base with added lime galaxy hollow glitters as well as some contrasting shimmer. The shimmer in this one is very lovely. Those glitters are nice and scattered holographic, so you're going to get a ton of different elements going on in here. I'll go ahead and show you a brush shot, and I'll show you how extraterrestrial beans swatched on my natural nail. So here's a look at that first coat. This one does go on nice and smooth. It's not gritty at all, even though it does have a good amount of those glitters. One coat is quite sheer again here, so I'll let that dry and then show you how it builds up with that second coat. So here's a look at that second coat. Again, I am working in thicker coats here. I really think that helps build up the opacity much quicker. It does need just a little bit of extra time to dry when you're working in thick coats like this, but it's just my preferred way of polishing. Two coats builds up that shimmer and adds a little depth, but I do still have a good flash of nail line here. So I'll go ahead and let that dry and then show you how it builds up with that third and final coat. So here's a look at that third coat. Again, I am going in thicker here, and this pulls this one right over the edge into being completely opaque. On some spots, I did have some low spots that I needed to go in and touch up just to cover up that nail line. So here's a look at that completed mani at 3 coats before a glossy top coat underneath my artificial lighting. Those scattered holographic glitters do add a little bit of texture, but a good glossy top coat will smooth those right out. So here's a view from another angle underneath my artificial lighting. This is my swatch photo, again under that same artificial lighting, and then once more at an angle. So next up is Psychic Beans, and this is another absolute beauty. This is described as a medium cool tone green with golden glass flecks and shimmer that shift from red to gold to orange. It does have a very strong, almost pink to red shimmer there on top of that teal base. Beautiful combination. It reminds me of the Little Mermaid. So I'll go ahead and show you a brush shot, and I'll show you how Psychic Beans swatched on my natural nail. So here's a look at that first coat. This one does go on nice and smooth, really easy, just a little bit sheer. So I'll complete this coat for you so you can see that it makes a nice blush of color here and a good base. And then I'll let that dry and show you how it builds up in a second coat. So here's a look at that second coat. I am working with a little bit of a thicker coat here. That's just how I build these polishes up. I do still have a good flash of nail line here though, so I definitely do recommend going back in for that third. 2 coats adds more shimmer and a little bit more depth, and I'm going to let that dry and show you how it builds up with my third coat. So here's a look at that third and final coat. Again, I know I'm repeating myself over and over again, but that does definitely help it build up. I did still have a tiny flash of nail line here in my swatch photos, but here in real life it looks completely opaque. So I'll go ahead and show you what that completed mani looks like at 3 coats before a glossy top coat underneath artificial lighting. Here's a view from another angle, again under that artificial lighting, and you can kind of see the visible nail line there pretty well. So this is my swatch photo, again under that same artificial lighting, and then once more at an angle. So next up is Inner Beans, and Inner Beans is described as a dreamy medium gray crelly with a linear holographic and then shimmer that shifts from blue to purple. This is another really gorgeous, very ethereal combination. I'll go ahead and show you a brush shot, and I'll show you how Inner Beans swatched on my natural nail. So here's a look at that first coat. This one goes on nice and smooth, just like the others. These aren't too thick or too thin. You're not going to have to worry about them pooling or anything like that. The base just almost feels like a jelly to let some of that shimmer as well as those glitters shine through the layers. It's one of those polishes that you're just going to have to build up to get to a good finish. So here's a look at my second coat. Again, I am working a little bit thicker here, and this one is so close to being completely opaque in just 2 coats. If you do nice, careful, thick coats, I think that you could get this one there with 2 coats. I'm going to go ahead and let that dry and then show you how it built up for me in a third coat. For sure, a third coat brings this one completely opaque. No issues or patches or shimmer streaks or anything like that. Just really pretty finish at 3 coats. So here's a look at that completed mani at 3 coats before a glossy top coat underneath my artificial lighting. It did dry down nice and glossy, but of course a good top coat will help bring out that shimmer as well as that hollow. Here's a view from another angle underneath my artificial lighting. This is my swatch photo under that same lighting, and then once more at an angle. So next up is Celestial Beans, and this is without a doubt another one of my top favorites. This is probably my second favorite. So this is described as a dark blue polish with blue shimmer and then hollow flecks. So this does have some blue on blue shimmer working there. It almost looks like a galaxy on the nails. So very pretty and deep. I'll go ahead and show you a brush shot, and then I'll show you how Celestial Beans swatched on my natural nail. So here's a look at that first coat. This again does have a bit of that jelly base, which really helps those holographic glitters pop through any layers. One coat made for pretty good coverage, a little bit uneven there, but I'll let that dry and then show you how it builds up with a second coat. So here's a look at that second coat. I am going in for my almost signature thicker second coat, but this is completely opaque and just 2 easy coats. Really gorgeous finish, and it looks exactly like it does in the bottle. So I'll go ahead and cap the tip there. This is a look at that completed mani at just 2 coats before a glossy top coat underneath the artificial lighting. Again, I do recommend that nice glossy top coat to help even out those top layer of glitters and make it a little bit more cohesive. Here's a view from another angle underneath my artificial lighting. This is my swatch photo under that same lighting, and then once more at an angle. So next up is Divine Beans, and this is described as a unique bluey purple color with a bluey purple shimmer. This did pull a little bit more purple than blue for me, but it is definitely a gorgeous blurple. It does have a ton of that really strong shimmer going on. I'll go ahead and show you a brush shot, and I'll show you how Divine Beans swatched on my natural nail. So here's a look at the first coat. I am working in a little bit of a thicker first coat here to amp up that coverage. One coat actually made for pretty decent coverage. It wasn't streaky at all. I did get a ton of those flakes and a ton of that shimmer. So I'll go ahead and cap the tip here, let it dry, and then show you how it built up with a second coat. So here's a look at that second coat. I am going in again for a nice thicker second coat. This brings this one completely opaque, really good, really easy polish to work with, and it just adds a ton of depth instantly. It builds up really well on itself. Go ahead and cap the tip again there and then show you the completed mani at 2 coats before a glossy top coat underneath my artificial lighting. Here's a view from another angle, again under that same lighting. This is my swatch photo under that same lighting, and then once more at an angle. So lastly today I have Sentient Beans, and this is described as a medium purple with hollow flakes and a pinky glass fleck shimmer with hints of gold. So this has a very strong, again, that pink shimmer kind of popping through. This collection works really well together, and LynB always does amazing purples and blues. I'll go ahead and show you a brush shot, and I'll show you how Sentient Beans swatched on my natural nail. So here's a look at that first coat. This one covers pretty awesome in one coat. It was just a little bit shy of being completely opaque. I do have very strong nail lines though. So I'm going to go ahead and work in a thicker first coat here. I kind of couldn't get the polish to reach all the way to that other side wall. So there's a look at that first coat. I'll let it dry and then show you how it builds up with a second coat. So here's a look at that second coat. I'm working just a nice normal coat here pretty much, and it does build completely opaque in just 2 easy coats. The shimmer in this one is absolutely outstanding. Gorgeous formula, really easy to work with. I don't think I could say anything else positive about these. They were just pretty awesome. So here's a look at that completed mani at 2 coats before a glossy top coat underneath that artificial lighting. Here's a view from another angle, again under that same artificial lighting. This is my swatch photo, and then finally once more at an angle. So that does wrap up my swatch and review of the Cool Beans collection. These are available right now. I'll link her storefront and social media down below. If you'd like to see more photos, I do have those available on my blog at sloppyswatches.com, or you can follow me on Instagram at sloppyswatches. So thanks so much for watching, guys. See you next time.